There is no Speaker of the House at the moment. This was interesting that came up, something we all didn't really pay a lot of attention to, but post 9/11, I think in a good move to ensure that if there was ever another major attack on the U.S. and especially on our politicians, remember one of those planes wanted to target the U.S. Capitol, that there would be enough line of succession in place to keep the government functioning. But the list is secret. And we found out yesterday who was first. There's 6 people on the list, and they update it every year. And it was Congressman Patrick McHenry out of North Carolina. I would say this, he's a great conservative, big on the budget. I don't think he's the type that wants to be, at this point, Speaker of the House. I don't want to put words in his mouth because I think he really likes getting into the budget details. That's why he's there. But again, I think it's good to have him there. He'll do he made that right time move. Let's not rush the vote. Let's take October 11th. And then we're hearing some names. We've heard Scalise. He hasn't fully put his name out there yet. The first person who has is Jim Jordan. I tweeted out this morning. I said, basically, other than if President Trump, and I think Jim Jordan would probably agree with me, would take this job as Speaker because you don't have to be in Congress, Jim Jordan would be my first choice. And I think Matt Gaetz would be pretty happy with that too. The Democrats would be, that was the.
Well, he wouldn't get any Democratic votes, but he doesn't need Democratic votes. I think he'd get every Republican vote.
No, and I think
Jim's very well liked. He's the chairman of the Judiciary Committee, which is probably the most powerful committee in the House.
Stood up with us, the ACLJ.
We've been friends of the ACLJ for 20 years. Yeah, we hosted some events with him recently.
I think if we can get Jim Jordan out of this as an outcome, maybe that 24 hours of craziness was worth it. But I'm not sure Jim Jordan would even say that. Yeah. I think, again, because he's going to have to start from scratch with a year to go, and he's running a huge investigation.
Right.
At the Judiciary Committee and the Weaponization Committee, and then he's got to be Speaker, and they've got an impeachment inquiry going on. I mean, he'd have to triple his team. Of course, Donald Trump's name is out there. He said, he would do what's best for the country. I could see him doing it if he wasn't running for president again. It'd be very tough to be Speaker of the House, facing all these cases, and trying to get out to those early states. Again, it's a great bully pulpit. You'd be speaking, you'd be passing policy, but you wouldn't get a ton done because you still got to deal with the Democrats in the Senate and Joe Biden in the White House.
There'd be some poetic justice maybe, but I think that the reality is not the best use of his time right now.
And I think he likes, he's poking everybody, saying, you know what, all these Republicans would love to have me come down to the House and be your leader. And how would the Democrats like that, to have to deal with Donald Trump every day of their life, not down the street at the White House, but in their face in the House of Representatives? And so I think, again, playing a little bit of that, I think that's a very unlikely scenario because he's leading in the polls to be the next Republican candidate. He's got all these other issues to fight. As long as he's fighting those issues, his poll numbers go up. I don't think his poll numbers go up when he's fighting about getting continuing budget resolutions, Dad. I mean, That's just the truth. And that's something Jim Jordan has to consider. What he does in Congress is very popular with the grassroots. So he, by himself, putting himself out there to become Speaker, he realizes you get criticized a lot more because you're not just the head of the Weaponization Committee that's very popular or investigating the Bidens and the DOJ and FBI corruption and listening to whistleblowers. That's very popular among conservatives. You got to get budgets passed. You got to do things that people get really upset about on your side of the aisle if they don't get everything they want. But he's been in Congress long enough, and I think he's a tough guy.
Hey, by the way, yesterday, 117 of you became recurring members, became ACLJ champions. We want you to be a champion of life, a champion of liberty, a champion of freedom. You become an ACLJ champion when you make your gift, and you make it monthly as a recurring gift. So become an ACLJ champion today at aclj.org.